So good morning. This is Don, and I'm here with Jen, and we're going to talk about automating with FME Server 2019.
Yeah.
So in FME Server 2019, arguably the biggest thing was automations. It completely changes FME Server. So what do you think about that, Jen? Is that a valid statement?
I would agree with you. I think this release is definitely my favorite release.
Yeah.
And I think automations is a big part of that.
Yeah.
And it was good on World Tour when we were out and about showing it, like everybody is so excited about automations.
Yeah, people in the past might have struggled with notifications and the whole subscription publications, and automation just puts a nice visual interface on top of that.
Yeah, this is so much easier than the old way of doing things.
So
yeah.
And we have a surprise at the end.
What?
Yeah. So what version of FME are we using here? We're like always live on the bleeding edge.
We are on 19.1.
And when did we get that?
Oh my gosh. I was at the gym last night with my laptop between sets, putting things onto this new server because it was about 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We got this build going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was up late last night as well, making sure everything ran. But there's some significant updates in 2019.1. Everything you see here can be done in .0, with the exception of the last thing Jen's going to see. Everything in 2019.1, we just take it to the next level. And that beta is available now. And there's a cloud instance now. If you want to try it, that's what we're using. And it's going to be released the first week of July.
19.1 is?
Yes.
Okay. Exciting. Shall we start?
Let's go.
Let's see if I can get to the next slide. There we go.
Yeah, so our motto at SAFE is connect, transform, and automate when we talk about the platform. And in this webinar, it's all about automate. And that really is what Server is. Server is all about how do you automate your tasks. And that's what this webinar is about. All our webinars can be found at safe.com/webinars.
Yeah, so there was a first part to this series, I guess, looking at the authoring part of FME, which would do a lot more of the connect and transform and would have been in Workbench.
That's right.
And then you publish all that to Server and automate it, and the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the theme of FME 2019 was FME for the enterprise, and automations is really the whole point of automations is enabling you not to just do simple things like run schedules, but to actually enable you to connect all your enterprise applications together in weird and wonderful ways to be able to even extract more value from all the data assets that you have around the organization. So with automations, you're going to notice we talk about all these different data sources. There's nothing about it that is spatial or precludes spatial. For automations, everything's just data, and so we're going to show you that now.
Yeah. So what is an automation?
Yeah, automations are really easy to understand. They're a very simple concept with two really things: triggers, which starts an automation, and then a series of one or more actions that trigger causes to happen.
Yeah.
And so every automation has the same pattern. When a trigger occurs, then perform an action.
Yeah.
Or actions.
Yeah, I was going to say, this doesn't mean you can only have one trigger and one action per automation. You can add in loads of triggers if you want, loads of actions, and you can build all kinds of crazy things.
You really can, and we're going to show some.
Yeah.
And so what are these, Jen?
These are triggers.
Yeah.
So when you build an automation, when you build an automation, it'll always give you a sort of like a blank trigger to start with, because you can't have an automation without them.
Yeah.
And then these are just some of the examples of triggers that you can put into your automation. So if anyone was familiar with a notification service, those publications are available as triggers in automation. So you've got things like you can watch for things in Directory Watch, FTP, Dropbox.
Azure?
Yes, although don't
talk too much about that one?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Schedules is a trigger. Incoming emails, so you can either email FME Server directly or watch an existing email inbox when something comes in and do something. System events is new.
Yes.
So I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
That's actually really big too.
Yeah, and FME Server topics, which is kind of like a webhook. Yeah. And then once you've put your triggers down in your automation, you can then connect actions to those triggers.
Right. And again, this is an example of some of the actions. So the first one at the top on internal is you can run a workspace. You can filter messages. that are flowing through your automation. You can log the content of any message to a file. And of course, merging, which we will talk about, but we won't show today, is the ability to bring multiple streams back together. And then on the external side, those are equivalent to the old-fashioned subscriptions, and you can see why now they're just a different type of action. Anybody who used 2019.0 and they look at this screen carefully,
I just realized you've updated this.
Yes, they'll notice that the external actions now have a success and a failure on all the actions. Yeah. And that's a big deal, because now you can put these external actions in the middle of your flows, or you'll actually know that an email was successful. And so maybe the email password changed and it wasn't successful. Now you could actually, catch that on the failed port and do something. So so that's a big deal. And those, again, those are just a few of the examples. Yeah.
So we should probably show people how to build an automation.
How hard it is. So Jen's going to build one.
This automation is going to take probably the rest of the webinar to build, probably. I mean,
well, if it was notifications,
so
it would.
Difficult. So
and this is the whole, while Jen's getting started here, the whole notion of scheduling something is easily the #1 way that people start automations. They have a regular schedule, could be once a day, could be once an hour, could be once a minute, could be once, every 10 seconds. And we've added some, So what's this, Jen?
So I've gone into FME Server, and then on the left-hand side in the menu bar, we've got automations, build. So I'm starting sort of like a blank automation, and I actually have what we call guided mode on. So it's already put a trigger down for me. So I need to configure that. You can see that because I've got a red exclamation mark here, and then it's prompting me for my next action. But what I'm going to do first is set my trigger up. So for this one, we're going to start with something fairly easy just to get started. So we're going to go with schedule initiated. So what we're going to do is have a workspace that does some like nightly database updates just to run that process.
Sounds good.
Consolidate all that data. So we're going to put that repeat on interval every 1 day. And I don't want that to start right now. I'm going to get that to start tonight.
Okay.
So tonight.
And we can just wait.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most of the people online, nothing better to do all day. They can wait until
it is a Thursday. If it was a Friday, maybe they might have something better.
Yeah, but like evening plans are fun. Oh, right, let's go back. Put that at 11 o'clock tonight. Okay. Not going to set an end date and apply. And then for my action then, I'm going to do an internal action, and I'm going to set that to run a workspace.
And you can really see how this guided mode really helps walk you through it.
Yeah, so if I wanted to do something, if this workspace succeeded or failed, maybe I would send an email to myself to say, hey, good job, it ran, or send an email to say it failed and I should go and check something out. But yeah, so when I choose run workspace, I can choose which workspace I want to run, which is useful. So I've got this database updates one. There's no input parameters here, but if there were, you would be able to set the values in here. And apply. So now I've built this. I need to start it.
So that's it.
Yeah. So, well, give it a name. Database updates. Okay. So now we wait until 11 o'clock tonight.
Okay. So what if I, let's just say that I wait till 11 o'clock at night, but I fall asleep, and then I come in the morning, and then morning I would have wanted to see it run. How would I, because maybe my database link was down, because that happens sometimes with schedules. You'll have a whole bunch running at night, and you come in and you see that, oh, my database was down, so all those jobs failed, but I'd want to run them.
So you want to run it again, what you're saying?
Yeah, but I don't actually want to go in and edit this and have to,
So I can show you a trick.
Okay.
Yeah. So my automation is running. So if I did want to go and edit this and change it, which I know you don't want to do, I would stop the automation and go in and edit it.
Right.
But if you want to do what you want to do, I can click on my schedule node, and at the bottom here is a trigger button.
Right.
So what this is going to do is sort of pretend it got to the scheduled time and basically just run this automation manually for me.
Yeah.
So that's ran now.
Yeah.
And we can check that it did run.
Yeah.
So in this menu option up here, I can go and have a look at the log file to see that that ran.
Yeah.
So you can see that, job 28 was sent to the engine, that's been processed, or it was waiting for the result.
Yeah.
But I can also click on view triggered jobs. So this will take me to that jobs page. Takes a long time to do those database updates actually. So it should be actually running right now. So that's why we can't see it. It's still running.
That was a bit of a tension there.
Yeah. So I guess what if you came in the morning and you thought, oh my gosh, it hasn't ran, and you run it again?
Yeah.
You're going to end up in a bit of a
pickle.
Yeah. So I guess we should show people
so
another
what we've added
new
to
thing.
the schedules now.
So I'll just do this again.
Yeah, so what sometimes would happen for folks with schedules, let's say you had a schedule every hour, and every once in a while the previous job hadn't actually been finished, and then the next schedule would start. So this has been pointed out by a couple of clients, and then the next one would run, and sometimes this could be very bad and actually trash the database or things like that. So now we've added on schedules, we have added this new skip jobs parameter. And so if Jen turns that on, now what would happen is when that scheduled time comes up, and if the previous job hasn't been finished, so if it's in the queued or running state, it would actually not resubmit it and then pick it up the next time.
So I set that one to run immediately. So if we go into the running jobs. So I guess because they start, I've left that from a different automation. If that
this is schedules, that's
again,
right. So if you went into schedules and you tried to run it again, that
then we
schedule, you'd
see
find that it would have been skipped. That's right. That's right.
So if I trigger, and I guess this shows as well that you can trigger from here as well again.
That's right. And now because that other one's running, you would see that it hasn't been run again. So you should have two schedules, and it isn't even queued. It's just not submitted.
And you can see from the source name that came from the schedules. This one came from my automation, so you can see that.
That's right.
That works.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
okay.
Oh, I guess we've already shown this. In the workplace. Schedule
that's a nice
pointing
zoomed
to
in. What's this slide about? What is this showing?
So we didn't have to necessarily run a workspace as part of our automation. We could just put a schedule and then an external action. So you don't even need any workspaces in your automations. You can do
any action you want. So you could, for example, you could set up an automation that's listening on a Dropbox, and when the Dropbox triggered, you could have that immediately send you an email. You wouldn't have to go through a workspace, and that's really the whole power of automations. We want all the actions to be treated equally. We expect most of the time people will be running workspaces, but you don't have to have a workspace in there to build an automation. So this next one is we're going to receive an email, and then we want to run a QA task and then send an email report back to the user. So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do on that one. Okay, so I think I'm going to do this one. So it's the same pattern.
So this time, instead of a schedule, we're going to look to see when an email arrives.
Then we're going to perform an action. And this is there's two steps in this. We're going to run a workspace, and then we're going to send the report back. And this is what it's going to look like, kind of, sort of. I won't build the Slack part just for an interest of time, but that's what we'll build. And we'll build it live just so you can see how simple it is. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm using Jen's computer, which is awesome because she never normally lets me touch it. So so here we go.
Don't break it.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so again we have a trigger, and in this case I'm going to create an email here. Okay, so email SMTP, and I'm going to choose SMTP just because it's simple, and I'll call this. We'll say this is QA. QA. Simple will be the username, and downloads attachments option. I don't need to specify that. And if I don't specify that, that means the attachment server will just look after that for me. And then the next thing I want, hide guided mode is off, so I'm going to turn that back on. And now I'm going to run a workspace, run a workspace, and on webinar, and it's going to be QA. Validation report. And there's a couple of parameters here. One is the input file. Let's grab that one first. This one, I'm simply going to grab the email attachment that was part of an email. And the report on this one, I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to temp, and we'll create one webinar, and I already have one there. So that looks great. We'll copy that. We'll paste that here. We'll go to the text editor because I want to, let's put today's date on it. What is it? It's May 30th. Yeah, I think it is. And then we'll say general, we'll say event ID, sure, just to make it unique. And then slash validation report.html. Okay. And I'm going to need this again, so I'm going to copy that. I'm going to need this also for the email sender, so I'm going to create a global variable, and I'm going to call this output report. And there is a PR to make it easier to create an output variable right in the middle of there, so I don't have to do all this. But yeah, so now I can click apply, and now I've gotten that. So now the next step I want to do is I want to create an email. I want to send an email. So I want to send an email. And this is where I can go horribly wrong. Okay, so Gmail. The account is, I want to send this out with is FME WTGT. Okay, and the password is.
Oh, go to that last tab. Oh, just press Control V.
Really?
We haven't done anything. Oh, that looks long.
That looks long.
Oh, it's because you copied that global key. We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Click on new tab.
Yeah.
And copy from the address bar.
Yeah. Control C, and then back here. Yeah, we knew. What did I copy? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. And then the email too. We're going to send it back to the. Oh, I just hit the. We're going to send it back to the person who actually sent us the email. So we're going to send it to the send from address on the email. And then the subject, the email from will be FME WTGT. And the email subject is, here is your validation report. Okay, and the text. And the attachment is going to be that global thing I set up, global output report. And the body is, here is your report. Hope it worked out for you. Okay, you like that?
Yep.
And then we click validate, and it looks good. Whew. And now we breathe. Yep. Okay. And okay, so now in theory, I go here, start validation, and this validation, I give it a name. We'll call it don.simpleqa. I don't know why I want to type QU, but that's just because of the language I speak. And now it should be running. We go to view log file, and we should see all these things set up. We go to view trigger jobs, and there should be none because I haven't actually done anything yet. And so there we go. There's no trigger jobs. And so now we go back to, this guy here, and we're going to compose, and we're going to send it to QA simple at this one here. It's almost looks like I've tested this before. Yeah. And then we're going to say, here is some data, And then we're going to go to your Finder. And on oh, you like your Finder really big.
Just click on the attached.
Oh boy.
No, you're going to mess it up.
Yeah, so, okay. What do I do, Jen?
So go back, just click the paperclip.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Oh, look at that. Thanks, Jen. And then drop that in there. Yep, I don't need you anymore.
Just press cancel.
Yeah, okay.
You do that a weird way.
Yeah. Do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, so now I click send, and then it's going to send it, and it's just Google's just doing its thing, giving me time to undo in case I decided I really didn't want my data validated. And then I go back to jobs FME server, QA simple, and now I should be able to say view trigger jobs, and there are none.
I guess would your automation log file show you that an email received?
What log me out?
Signed out.
Okay, don't save. Okay, and then we go back here. What? Oh, okay. Did I get that right? Oh boy. Son of a gun. Don't you hate that? QA underscore simple. Okay, let's look at the log file. What does it say? No. Oopsies.
Oh, well, it worked.
No, I know what I did wrong. Anyway,
Oh.
I'll explain what I did wrong. But yeah, it did work. Here is your validation report. You'll notice that the text is slightly different. It's because if I go, I have two running on the same account. So here's what's going on. So if I go to my automations here and I go man, just so everybody can see what's going on, there's going to be another one here that I have, which is exactly the same. This one here is running, see? So that's the problem. So that's the other one I built previously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I should have stopped him, and then he would have worked.
Right.
But okay, should I send it again?
Yeah, send a good one this time.
Okay, so we'll do that again. Now let's look at my automations and make sure that this one's running. That's the one I want. Jen's database is still running. New user request is running. This one's running. Receive event grid is running. Okay, so now we should be good. Sorry about this, people. I apologize. That's what happens when you practice and then you you actually forget to turn it off. Okay, so QA simple. No, don't want that one. QA simple. That guy there. Another try. Okay, hit the paperclip. Hit this and say open. Is that the better way?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Thanks. Okay, click send. And now it's sending it again, and it's going to be sent in a minute. I go back to my inbox, and now go over here, go to this automation here, and this is the one I built, and now view trigger jobs, and nothing. Okay, well, we're not going to spend too much time on this. Yeah, okay. I'll log it.
At least your practice one worked.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, probably if I re-enable, but we're going to get on with the webinar. We saw it work in, yeah, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So wow, that's not a great start. Sorry, Jen.
That's okay. Oh, gosh. Okay.
Wow.
So what happens when Don touches their computer?
Yeah. So the next automation is, this time we want to do some data watching, which I think is also one of the most popular types of automating things people do in FME servers, along with schedules. So whenever new data arrives, we want to run an FME task, or what we mean by that is run a workspace. So we've got quite a few different triggers that will do some watching for us. So you can watch inside the directories on FME server, you can watch FTP sites, Dropbox, Amazon S3, and then new for 2019, we've got Azure Event Grid. So when data gets uploaded into Azure, you can get it to notify FME server straight away, which is what we're going to do for this next example. So we've set this up so that when data arrives, then we're going to run a workspace. So if I come out of here, so there is an automation that I've built earlier. So if I go to this manage page, I've got a receive event grid automation already set up. It's quite a simple one. It's already set up running, but I can show you how this is configured. So I set my trigger to be Azure Event Grid. So what you do when you click inside here, this gives you a webhook endpoint, which is sort of the URL of your FME server, just with an event grid ID on the end of it. So if you are doing this, if you are an Azure user, you need to make sure that your FME server is publicly accessible and it has a valid HTTPS certificate. Otherwise, Azure won't connect to it. So what you can do is take that webhook endpoint and you'll put it into the console here. So you will have to go into, I think it's events, and then you can set that up inside here. So you can see, if I can remember, still a little bit rusty with this. Event subscription, I can create a new one, and then you'll choose what endpoint you want Azure Event Grid to send it to. And then I can go and put in that FME server URL in here, had I copied it. And then once anything new gets uploaded into Azure, it will send a message to that webhook so that automation is listening to it. So I can go back now to my storage accounts. That's okay, I didn't really do anything here. And I've set up an FME server automation storage account ready. And then we can go to this storage explorer. And what I've set up the event to do is watch inside this container here, this FME server container. So whenever I upload data into this incoming data folder, we should get a notification in FME server that automation is going to get triggered. And then we've got this so that it's going to pass that information to a workspace. So I've got a workspace that's set up to receive those notifications. It's taking the message subject coming from Azure, which contains the sort of path to that file. And then inside this workspace, I don't know if I can't click on the binoculars from here, but I can show you what is going on inside the workspace. Click on the binoculars. So it's a bit messy, actually. I should have tidied this up before we do it, but we've got some Azure packages in here. So we've got the blob storage connector. So once data is uploaded to that, I'm passing the path to that data through here. And I've got the blob storage connectors that are reading that data. And I've actually got this workspace copying it into the resources on FME server, just to prove that it is working. So that automation is running. So I can go and upload some data into here now. Like in here, where's my FME data folder? And then I will upload this crime CSV file. That's okay. Load, that's done. So we can go to this automations, receive event grid, check to see if that workspace ran. Today, 8/27, yep. So if we go into the resources on FME server, data inside this folder, we can see that it put that crime 2011 CSV file in here at 8/27. So that workspace is receiving that notification from Azure and copying it into the resources on FME server.
Great.
So it works.
Awesome.
My demo's worked.
Yay.
Yep.
And I have news on mine too, just so
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah. So,
Yep.
okay, so this is back to
Yep.
to me.
Yep.
So the good news, Jen, is that we'll go back to Firefox here. So I guess I go like this. No, I go like this.
Yep.
And if we look now, and I'll explain what it is a bug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the a previous automation had simple QA. When I launched mine, it couldn't get that address.
Right.
So, but when what should have happened is when I went to and they started, it should have told me the log should have told me an error. So we're gonna fix that. But what I'm gonna do, but when I stopped it and restarted it, then it automatically started working. And if I go to, there it is, and if I go to, and it just picked up the email, and if I go to this address, you'll see when I stopped mine, that when I stopped both, the simple QA address then was no longer valid. So it actually sent it back saying, hey, the address was not found. I re-enabled the automation, and now here it is, right? And so now anybody who sends email to, simple_QA would get this back. So we welcome people to send email to that if they want to try it, and it'll work. I'll leave that running. So, but we will talk to the team about fixing that. So the next thing we want to show is, so far we've talked about really simple workflows, really one workspace, and then maybe an email or something with one trigger. But you're also able to do really complex workflows consisting of many workspaces. Ooh. Yeah. So again, it's the same kind of flow when a trigger occurs, then perform an action, right? And so in this case, I could use any trigger, but I'm going to use a schedule time just because it's easy to see. And then in this case, we want to perform a complex set of actions, right? So, okay. So the one we're going to walk through now is all about parallel processing. So, so this one is simply a loading into a database in various steps. But you can imagine, and we're working towards making it really easy for people to have, huge numbers of things that are happening in parallel that you wouldn't have to specify at authoring time.
Yeah.
But right now, so here I have 2 parallel flows, and they truly are parallel. I could have as many as I want. So if I could have rivers, roads, states, counties, whatever, cities, you could have as many of those, and they truly would run in parallel. So if I had 2 or more engines, then they're going to run in parallel. So you can imagine if I'm doing a big database load, now I could have an automation, and I could really run all those workspaces in parallel, getting much more throughput, being able to bring those together. So, and of course, in a parallel stream, you can also have these sequential executions where this one has to happen after that one. And the merge is really, really powerful because it ensures that all the parallel streams come together and are completed before the merge moves on to the next phase of your orchestration. And of course, after a merge, you could have as many parallel branches as you want. And that's really one use of the orchestration. Okay, so the parallel processing. Okay. But I'm going to show a different one. I'm going to show an advanced QA workflow because sometimes in a really big workflow, what you want to do is you want to audit each step and see how each step goes. So so you should be pretty scared of this one, Jen, because based on how well my previous one went.
Yeah.
But this one I pre-built, and I'm not going to build this one in front of folks. And for full disclosure, I will also talk about the things we don't like and the things that we're going to fix. Okay. So here it is, and it breaks my, I used to talk about a 10 transformer rule.
Yeah.
I'll turn off the hide the guides, but now we're getting to the 10 workspace rule. So really what happens in this case, an email arrives, and when an email arrives, what I want to do is I first want to make sure so this is a main flow down here. I want to make sure that the CAD file passed in is valid. If it's valid, then I go right to a database load, and then basically then I'm done. If the CAD pass fails, then again I produce a CAD validation report, and then I send an email out to the person. And you'll notice everywhere else I have these update CAD status, file status. So most of this workspace is just all about auditing the status of each step. So that's what I don't like. What I'd really like is just to have this update CAD status in one spot, and then be able to connect all the values to that. So then it would be very clear that I have this very simple workflow really, and the rest is just all my auditing, right?
Yeah.
And we are going to fix that for 2019.1.
Okay.
And but I thought this whole idea of auditing was really, really important. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send an email to this, and then we will look to see what happens.
Before you send an email to it, you haven't used that email address anywhere else, have you?
Why would you ask such a silly question? No, I have not.
Okay, just checking.
As far as I remember. Okay, so I'm going to compose again, and this time it's a different email. It's QA webinar at, and I built this on a number of machines, as you can tell. So we're going to pick the right machine, QA webinar, not QA simple. And I'm going to say, okay, crossing fingers, because with the demo gods, the demo gods don't always smile on us. And I'm going to attach a file, and I'll do the bad one again, just because it's more exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, because you get a nice report back, and I'm going to say bad, and then I'm going to send it, and then so that's been sent. So now if I go back to my automations over here into this guy who is running, yes, and I look at the triggered jobs, you're going to see, oh my goodness.
It doesn't like you today.
It does not like me today. Okay, view log file. So view log file. Okay, yeah. So it's waiting. Orchestration. Okay, view triggered jobs. There we go. Woohoo! So
What a relief.
yeah, sometimes email seems to take a long
Yeah.
time to get there. So you
Yeah.
can see what happened. There was a CAD, all the workspaces. You can see most of them that ran were that CAD update status. But so we should go back to the email. We should see that the CAD error report was there. So I still got that CAD validation report. But now I also have this webinar status. So here's my audit trail. So you can see that the the email was received, the S3 upload was successful, the CAD validation failed, the CAD validation report was successful, and the email sent was successful. I misspelled success, but that's me, not them.
Yeah.
And so now you can see it tells you the user that sent it in, and so now you could have a nice audit trail. And of course, you could then have another workspace that ran hourly if you wanted to, or whatever, that would read this and look for failures, and then tell people what was wrong. And the CAD validation failed as long as the email sent back with success is good. And also, if I go over to my S3, you'll see that if I refresh this, you'll see that there's another folder here. Okay, I'll go back. If there's an issue here, this is S3 because it was uploaded successfully. And today's the 30th. It must be this one here. And there it is there. Yeah, so there we go. That one worked, Jen.
Yay.
Yeah, so that's just another way of using the orchestration to help you in these big, long workflows. You no longer have to put all that work inside your workspaces. You can now use automations to really help you in these big, long, complex jobs know exactly where things have gone right and where things have gone wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So.
Okay. What's next?
System events.
Okay. So, do you want to explain what a system event is?
Sure, yeah. System events are all about enabling you as an administrator to have the server tell you what's interesting and important to you rather than having to go through FME server log. So if there's anything that you constantly look for in an FME server log file, look for system events, and you can use system events. You can tell by the icon there as a start of a automation.
Yep.
And then the server can tell you what's of interest. So
yeah.
And we started with some obvious ones. Some of these we knew we just needed to be done. Others were came from requests from users. So if there's a system event that you would like, let us know.
Yeah, I think there is a thread on the Knowledge Center on the FME community under the ideas section about system events. So that would be a good place to put any ideas if you have them.
Yeah, I don't think anybody gets up in the morning and says, I can't wait to look through FME server log files.
It's basically my job.
Yeah. I'm just amazed you keep showing up then.
Yeah, so far so good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the system events that we've already built on here, just because it required adding email configuration in, is when a system event, or the system event that we've got in here is looking for a new user to be created, because as an administrator on a system, it might be nice to know when people are adding new users to your system. So not necessarily to like spy on people and be like, oh, Don made actually maybe you would. Don's made an account on this FME server. He's probably going to break it or mess it up. So I should probably keep an eye on him. But then you'll get to know, like, if your server's getting busy, if you've got a lot of users hitting it, then you might want to keep an eye on that. So we can get that to email us when a new user has been created. So I did build this automation already, and then I think in a little bit we're going to test it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got.
Do you want me to create a user over here and you can see if you know what user it is when you're ready?
Oh, okay.
You can play hide find that user.
Yeah. Just to give you a warning, if you put in the username I think you're gonna put in, it's already been taken.
Oh, okay. I'll put it in a different one.
I know what your favorite username is.
Yeah. I'll go with my number 2.
Yeah. So you can see inside the system event here. You've got the option, you can choose as many system events as you want in here. Or if don't create the new user yet. I just stopped this so I can show people the drop down. So you can basically go in here, gives you a list of all the system events that are available, and you can select as many as you want. So I've actually picked user create, user delete, and update for this automation. So I'll restart this again. So if you want to make your user,
Okay.
Now you can. And then inside the email action, put in all those account details, the email body, which you can type in here. I think Don already showed you can write your message. I've used some of the parameters coming out of the system event just so in the email it's telling me which user has been created, which person already on the server created that user, just to give me a little bit of information about what's going on.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Have you made a user?
I did. I just created a user.
So I wonder if it will show me in the log file. Just sent an email. Successfully sent an email.
Oh, that's nice.
Whoops.
So now,
Oh,
you
yes.
go to Donna at Save Test, I guess. Is that where you had it go?
No, it should be coming to my email in here. It's emailing me. Oh, here we go. User created. Bobby Sue has been created.
There you go. That's my
Yeah, is
second
that right?
favorite.
Yep. Yeah. So I can go and check out Bobby Sue here and see what they've been.
Yeah.
Oh, FME author. Okay. I'll let you have that.
Yeah. I was going to go for super user, but I knew I'd be
Oof,
declined.
you'd be in big trouble from me then, giving super users. So this one's exciting.
Yeah.
It was exciting in .0.
And now it's.
But it got way more exciting in .1.
This is really the feature that Jen and I couldn't sleep at night if we didn't get the chance to show you, because it just takes FME Server Apps to the next level. And on the road again, when I displayed FME Server Apps, I went on a bit of a rant telling people all the things I didn't like about FME Server Apps in .0. And of course, that's because I knew what was coming in .1.
Yeah.
Yeah, or what I hoped was coming in .1. So.
But
okay.
Luckily, that's why we were last minute getting the build last night, is
You're,
because we wanted to
you're welcome.
do this. But thanks. Yeah. So the new things in 2019.1, and I'll actually show you this. I'm going to build an app in 2019.1.
Yeah.
So you can now pick images and color selections.
Yeah.
Ooh, so pretty much every app I've built so far has been pink.
Yeah.
But you
well,
could.
I wouldn't say that. I would say rubbish.
Oh. Thanks. I don't really know what to say to that. So you can control which workspace parameters are exposed, and if you want to have the default value in there. And it also gives you a much nicer URL to share with people, whereas before it was quite long and quite ugly.
Yeah.
So let's.
Yeah, and even at Safe before, what we did when we would build an app on FME Server for public consumption, we would always get one of our superstars like Laura to who's online to make it look presentable.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Well, this is one I made earlier when I was testing it.
Yeah.
So you've now got server apps in the menu bar on the left-hand side, so it makes it a lot easier to go and find them and manage them. So you've got this new user request form, so you can give it a description so people know what they're doing when they come to this app, what it's for. So we've created this form so that anyone can request access to this FME server instance.
Yeah.
So I've got a workspace that's set up, which basically takes all of the input details, makes the new user using the FME Server REST API, and then sends an email back to that person to say, like, welcome to FME Server.
Yeah, and that description is markdown, so you can also add links in there. So if you wanted a link to your own site or another site, or if you wanted to put an image in there, you can put an image in there. Whoa.
This is going to look awful, but well, you did say my apps were rubbish anyway, so.
No, before it wasn't you. It was because it was .0. You couldn't.
Oh, I thought you meant me making them pink was rubbish.
No, they just look like rubbish because you didn't have
Either way, I was
.1.
offended.
You didn't have
Yeah. So you can see here as well, like now at the bottom, you can choose when you want your app to expire. So this one's going to run out in 10 years time.
Yeah.
I'd be like throwback Thursday. Remember what 19.1 looked like?
Yeah.
Whew. Anyway.
Yeah. And what's that column on the left, or sorry, the right? The
on the
show
right.
me app. What is that for all about?
So you may have parameters here. Maybe you don't want the user to input the values to. So you could hide those, put in the default value here, and hide it so people don't go in there and mess it up.
Right. So we could hide the password, for example.
We could.
And then they wouldn't see it, and then they would have to use the recover password to set their own.
They would.
So we could do that if we wanted to.
We could.
Yeah.
Should we?
Sure.
We can try it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, I'm going to blame you for messing my demo
Because they'll
up.
never guess what your password is there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think, yeah. So I'm going to delete all of these values. So it means it's blank for the user when they come to this form. They can fill in what they want. So they're going to give us their name, their email address, their username.
Yeah.
And then this is the exciting bit.
This is really crazy.
Customize appearance.
Yeah.
So you can give your app a title, you can choose the background color, just a little bit more. I'll pick a nice blue color, kind of matches the heading image.
Yeah.
Got an icon.
Yeah.
And then are we happy with this?
Oh,
Are
I
you
like
happy?
it. Yeah, I'm happy.
Okay. And then it's going to give you this URL, so it's a lot nicer to look at than before.
So we're going to leave this server running for a week. So anybody who wants an account on it, just go to that URL. Stephanie will Slack that out, and I'll come and help you find it. And then you can create it, and then you can play around with server for a week. We'll let you run on it, and yeah.
Oh.
And so there you go. So there's the form.
Yeah.
And you can see that now, you know, if a user comes to this, they'll have no idea. You can imagine your own corporate look to it. There's no way that a user would know that this is FME Server in the background. So yeah, and so yeah.
Yeah, so by default, this is giving author privileges to users. So they would be able to publish workspaces up, but they won't have admin access, so they can't do anything dangerous.
Right.
So put in my username, my email address, my first and last name. So if I run this now, wait for this to run, completed. If I go back to my email here, oh, we've got a couple new emails here. Oh, we've got people signing up already.
Nice.
That was quick.
That's great.
So you can see that the request I put in, because I put my email address in, I'm getting a thank you for requesting access to FME Server email back. It's given me the URL to the cloud instance, some resources if anybody's new to FME Server. And then because we hid that password option, if you want to get access to it, when you go to sign in, you can click on forgot your password, and then it will give you the option.
Right.
I think it sends you an email, and then you'll go in there and set your new password.
So as long as your email's valid.
Yeah, so make sure you put the right email address in.
Yeah.
And then you can see that this actually came through from that system event that I set up and set saved.
Yeah.
So you can see that it shows mine, anybody else that signed up. And here, I'm going to get an email to say they're using FME Server, which is great.
Awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's and of course going on in the background there it was also triggering that system event that Jen just showed. So then the administrator of that machine will make this available, and then we will know who's logged on. We'll also be able to tell who didn't click the button. But anyway, it's all good. Yeah. Yeah. So good. Yeah.
Oh.
So there we go.
There is no screen. Oh, I was supposed to. Put that
that's
in.
okay. We saw it. So we'll put that in for when we share the deck, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we'll grab that screenshot when we share the deck. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So that's our desktop app. That icon, you might wonder, what is that icon for? If you use that FME Server app on your iPad or your mobile device or something, you can actually save a page to the home screen, and when you do that, you would see that icon. You'll also see that icon in the tabs of your browser. So that's the two places that you would see that icon. So that's FME Server Apps, primarily targeted at the desktop, but they will run on a mobile device, of course, because they're running in a browser and they're a progressive web app. So okay. So we also have these native mobile apps that are custom code for both Android and iOS. And the nice thing is that they run the FME Server apps that you've created on the native mobile device. Okay.
Yep.
And so if you go back to your app listing, I can tell people on your server there, I can show people what's going to happen really quickly.
Okay.
So if you just go to your apps list, so yeah.
This one?
Yeah. So on the right hand, I'm getting my right and my lefts mixed up. Oh. So on the right side at the top there, where it says FME Server Apps, you know, where you see the question mark, just to the left of that, there's going to be there's going to be two new links. Okay. One is going to be you know, just to advertise FME Server Apps. Hey, you know, click here to run this within an FME Server app, and it will then connect and grab all the parameters and things like that and run that on the mobile device. But that hasn't happened yet in .1. Okay. But we haven't forgot about the FME Express mobile app, and more. They're actually in .1 more connected than they were in .0. In .0, if you were using server, you might not even know that FME Express existed. Now we're going to tell people right from this list.
Yeah.
They make it really easy for them to download the link.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great.
And that's the FME. And then there's we've just walked through a bunch of yeah. So that's FME Server 2019.1 and automations, and there's more to come with the automations. Yeah. So any future things that come to mind for you, Jen?
That's coming up in .1?
Anything
I
you're
feel like I
excited
should
about?
know now.
That's okay.
I feel like these were the most exciting. I think I've been distracted by these.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
they are by far the most exciting. Yeah, the one thing that's coming, and in automations in maybe a .2 or 2020 for sure, is this notion of guaranteed delivery. And so what we're going to do then on all the external events, you'd be able to right click and specify a max time and then a retry interval.
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe you go to send an email, but for whatever reason, the email server's down or the web connection to your email is down. Whenever we're talking to these external systems, things can go wrong. And we don't want the automation just to try once and then stop. At least now we have the success and failure.
Yeah.
And then if it fails, you can know. But what we really want is to still have those, but enable you. Maybe you want to try your email for 15 minutes before you quit, or an hour, and then you would specify the initial retry interval, and we would try to several times before we failed, because things like that. Yeah. So yeah. But it's exciting. More system events. If there are system events that people would like, yeah, just reach out to us or on the community. Yeah.
And I guess automation as well. If anybody builds a really cool automation, it might be fun to see what people are doing.
We would love to see and
share that.
Yeah, and also tell us what we need to do next or better.
Yeah.
We have things in the pipe, but there's nothing like feedback from real users that are solving real problems to enable us to get better and better.
Yep. Great.
There we go. So thanks so much.
We did a good job today. Normally I feel like we talk a lot, and we actually finished.
I know we finised
within time.
Within time for questions.
Yeah.
So
should we have a look at the questions, see if there's anything we want to talk about?
Sure. Let's have a look.
Yes, we've got a good QA team.
Yeah, there's a great question there from IT. Is the creation of a shareable URL going to change dramatically? Just figured out how to get it working on .0. Yeah, on .0, I mean, IT, good on you for finding it. It's much simpler now in .1, because if Jen goes to her apps again, her app listing, now the shareable URLs are really, really simple. It's just at the very beginning there, really, it's where are the, oh, anyway, we'll make sure that it's easy to find. So, but now it's really the short one. But yeah, maybe we need to.
I guess would you find it? You'd find it here.
Anyway, we'll make sure that it's really easy. It should be on the FME Server Apps. This is kind of a great question and a funny one. So click on Server Apps. Again, this is a beta, so this is.
I guess this is what he's talking about.
Yeah, but we want them to use that, right?
So click on Apps again?
Yeah, because he wanted a shareable app. So that's yeah. So yeah. So where's the URL for the?
Oh, it automatically copies it to your clipboard.
Ah, there we go. So copy to clipboard, and then there it is. Okay.
Oh, and I guess if you click View as well, it'll open a new tab, and you can copy and paste it. Okay, so there we go. So we thought of that. So that's great. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. So the shareable URL, if you want to invoke it from an actual direct invoke, then that was the run workspace that Jen showed earlier, and that's to run a workspace directly. So if she picks that, I'll just pick any workspace.
So we'll look at that as well and see maybe that's not the best place for it anymore. Create a webhook. So if you clicked on create a webhook, then again it would be how long you want it to expire, etc. And she clicks there. Now we've improved it. So now there's two ways to do it. There's the old way at the bottom, this query string authorization, and then there's the authorization header approach. In that case, you wouldn't be passing the token on the query. It would be passed securely across the HTTPS as header information. So yeah, so great question. So anything else?
There's a quick win here. Is there a dark mode? If you want to go to dark mode, you can still click on your user in the top right and you can turn dark mode on.
Yeah. And somebody asked, are these available in 2019.0 as well? And the answer is mostly, as Laura stated. The styling options for the FME Server apps aren't there, so you're stuck with the default from FME Server and a really long, ugly URL. And also the output ports on the actions are not there.
Yeah, they're kind of fixed, so you can't control that.
So that's really the only things. Yeah. So, is there an example that uses one IMAP email account and triggers multiple workspaces?
I guess you would just have your one IMAP trigger in that case, and then add multiple workspace actions and connect them all to that same trigger.
That's right.
So you would.
That's right. So you would use. So if you remember back to that automation I showed in orchestration, you would have, instead of having like load rivers and load states, you would just have all the workspaces that you wanted to run off that in one, so you could have a parallel stream.
Yeah.
I could access that app before creating a user, so all apps are accessible by anonymous users. Yes, that's right. And you can't access that's right. So when we give you that URL to run that app, the only thing you can do on that is run that server app. The user is not authenticated. The user has 0 permissions on that server other than what is necessary to run that app. So that is all they can do. They can't do anything else. So, task routing, be interested in talking about that more, learning more what is they would like there. The old publications and subscriptions are still available. That notifications tab is still there, and we will not remove that. Publications and subscriptions are the fundamental building blocks upon which automations are built. And so if anything, they're only going to get better, scale better, faster, because to optimize automations, often we optimize the underlying layers. So, but we will not take that away, because in addition to that, many users have already built notification workflows. Yes, and again, if you want to load a lot of the data, and you have multiple engines on multiple servers, now what you can do with automations is you could have different workspaces loading particular tables, whereas and you could get significantly faster throughput, because before it was one machine to one machine, and sometimes FME is completely on one machine is completely optimized or brought that machine to some resource to a constraint. So good. FME Server, the whole workspace chaining and automations is out of beta. So so in 2019.0 it was released. So you can use automations to chain workspaces together. It just gets better in .1.